So what I do is I do my money affirmations every morning. I do my gratitude list every morning. I definitely do my breath work and visualizations every morning to my they're all framed nice, high def pictures. I do that morning and night. I found out that when I was doing it just morning or just night, I wasn't getting the same results as when I did it twice a day. And they say that's really important, that when you go to bed at night before you meditate, that you really get yourself in a positive mindset loop. So, I'm doing that. I'm also I have a box here, anything I want, I just write down and put in the box, right? And then I also do the placemat. I write down, maybe the 5 or 6 things that I want to accomplish every day on one side of the placemat, drawing a line in the middle. And then on the other side, it's everything that I want the universe to do and take care of. So the left-hand side is what I need to do, the things that I can physically do, the things that I will accomplish today. And then on the right side, it's everything I want the universe to do. And that's all the stuff that is, right, that's outside of today, basically. And I'm telling you, yesterday I checked off every single box on both sides. And I was blown away. Because I forget about it, right? It's in the morning, and then in the evening I kind of look at it and I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Awesome to have you guys here for another episode of the Diamond Life Mentor Podcast with your host, Balazs W Kardos. And I'm super excited for a special guest today, Carlos Gonzales, a 682-3 in Enagic. He's actually in a different organization than myself, and he's been in this business for a real long time. And it's really going to be cool for us to hear his story, his experience in the business, and also since being mentored by myself in the last few months, what has happened since. And so make sure you say what's up in the comments below. Give us some love. Give Carlos some love. And this is going to be an awesome conversation. So thanks for coming out here, Carlos. I know you have a busy schedule and you're doing a lot of things to implement in your life right now and in your business. So thanks for taking the time. And I'm really excited to hear your background and story. So let's start there. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're 50 years young, peak optimal health, doing awesome in life. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, I mean, well, just first of all, can't thank you enough for the opportunity and to get to have a conversation with you and in this kind of cool format. And, I've learned so much, but no, basically, I guess I'm supposed to start with where I came from.
Yeah, a little bit about yourself.
Basically, yeah, man, I just had a great life, upbringing, and lost both my parents at a pretty young age due to degenerative diseases and preventable ones. And had the means and both me and my sister had the means to really make a difference with my parents, but we didn't have any knowledge, so we were kind of really at the mercy of the medical system. And so that put me into preventative health that I've now been in, semi-professionally and semi-professionally for the last 24 years. Primarily, I did that for selfish reasons. I did it because I wanted to know, and so while I haven't necessarily been a purist, but especially the last decade or so, it's been my primary focus is just the whole anti-aging and freedom aspect of it, right? And so in 2011, Enagic came along, and I was looking, I was counting broke Novembers. So if anybody's gone through the holiday season, and my kids were, relatively young at the time, and I have 3 grown children. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be a grandfather soon. My daughter.
Congrats, man. That's amazing.
Yeah. But you count broke Novembers and it's like, geez, and so some guy walked into I was at that point, we'd gone through the 2008 thing. I had owned a gym, a fitness center. It was like a whole wellness clinic, and that collapsed after, 2009, 2010, 2011. So in early 2011, some guy was bringing in water to a gym. I'd become a starving personal trainer and nutritionist, and I'd try anything. And the guy that I was leasing from didn't speak great English, but anyway, he said the water's Congo water, and I'm like, where's it from? He's like, Japan, and I'm thinking, they're flying water in from Japan, like that doesn't pencil out, But anyway, I drank the water, and within maybe 3 days. I was like, and I was dealing with depression, and I had, I was acidic and I didn't know it. I mean, I had 25 pounds more muscle on me and no body fat, but I was not healthy like I am now. And so there's a story here. There's a lesson here. So anyway, that guy disappeared. I ended up switching places, leasing. 3 months later, I was in a hot yoga bathroom or changing room, and some guy goes, "Hey, what kind of water do you drink?" And I said, whatever I said. And he goes, "Well, I teach a water class. I want you to come." And I'm like, "Okay," and I'm trying to get a client. So I'm just thinking, this is great. Anyway, that guy was Howard Phillips, who introduced me to Enagic. And so that other guy that missed, right? How much money did that cost him? Because you know what? He didn't know I was looking. He never talked to me. He kind of walked past me. I mean, that's got to be millions and millions of dollars that guy missed by just not showing me the business. Because the reality I was looking for anything.
That is a massive lesson. You've dropped a bunch of massive lessons. And I think like what I've learned about personal development and how we grow as individuals is that we actually aim to fill the voids in our life. And so if we grew up poor, it's a void of lack of money. So we want to fill that void when we're older. And if we lose our parents to health, things like yourself and myself as well, with my dad passing, we want to fill that void with better knowledge, being proactive and finding out why did that have to happen and how can we avoid it. And then a lot of the time from that place comes like this passion of, well, I have this knowledge now. How can I pay it forward? And you tried doing that with personal training and nutrition stuff, and it was a struggle, the economy, all these factors, and now you found a better, more optimized way to do that same thing through Enagic and the network marketing model, direct sales model, which I think is really, really powerful. And when you have that true connection to your why and your past of how you grew up and the reasons why you do this, you're literally unstoppable at that point towards the goals and the impact that you can make. So kudos to you for turning a tragedy and something so sad of losing your parents into something positive. And I'm sure now with your impact, you've helped many families be healthier and not lose their loved ones because of the knowledge that you've shared with them. So that's beautiful. And then when you talk about the business side real quick, you're like, often people are so afraid of rejection or what happens if they say no. And like in that case, the guy that missed, he maybe lack of knowledge or skill, or he had fear, or maybe he wanted to, but he didn't. Whatever the reason was, the point is it never happened and it could have. Right. And so often when we look at opportunity cost, rather than focusing on the fear of rejection, is like, what if this person was a yes and I just didn't have the courage or the skill or the practice to ask? And at least if it's a for sure no, you're like, cool, this person most likely won't sign up with someone else. But a maybe, a not right now, think about it. All these things are still the doors open and it still could be your person. So you ended up getting started with someone else. And how long ago was that when you started that business?
So it was June 2011. So I'm coming up on 14 years here.
14 years. Amazing. Yeah. And how long did it take you to get traction in the early days of your business? Like, did you experience a lot of challenges with prospecting or lead gen or closing the sale, or was it pretty smooth sailing for you?
It was your story and my stories are very similar. I mean, I was just so hungry and so desperate. And I was just like, I'll tell you I'll tell you a little quick background. This is a pretty funny story. So when he invited me to his house to see the demo, right? I brought my daughter, my 8-year-old daughter, Lexi, right? The one that's 22 now. And so she was with me. She shows me the thing. He shows me everything. I'm like, listen, dude, I got basically 2 questions for you. I go, is everything I'm seeing here real? And he's like, oh yeah. And I go, can I make any money doing this? And because he still hadn't showed me the business.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah. And you know what he showed me? Balazs, he showed me 285. He goes, yeah, dude, if you put people in front of me, you're going to get 285. Because at the time, all we had was SD501s. I was in at 285 because I was like 20 a month at 285. I could pay my bills. So he had me at 285, right? And so I get in the car. My daughter's awesome. She's so cool. And, she hops in the front seat, get in there. And I go, well, what do you think, Lexi? She goes, Dad, you're going to be rich. And that was it, man.
Wow, that's so cool. I love that story. Yeah, it's wild because when someone is really looking, right, they don't need to know all this fancy stuff. Like what happens 16 years after I start, and then you get to this level and it's like, none of that matters. It's like, let's get started. Let's help some people. Let's make some money. And then like, even for myself, it's funny you say our stories are similar. I literally learned the comp plan after being paid. So like, I didn't know anything until I got the check. And then I'm like looking at this bonus with like this statement. And I'm like, that's cool. But like, how did I get this money? And then I asked a question, went to the office, and then they're explaining the comp plan to me rather than using those typical examples of like, hypothetically speaking, you have this many
Right.
sales and then this happens. They're
Right.
showing me my actual sales, being like, this is what you actually sold, and this is why you got the check. I'm like, I gotta probably
Oh,
keep doing that.
yeah.
I'm like, this sounds cool. All right, sweet. So you got started in the business. You were off to the races after the first presentation.
Yeah.
And then what was your journey like in the first 2, 3 years? Because I find that personally, you're 682-3 in Enagic now.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people, they give up in that initial like 24 to 36 months because they don't get off to a quick start, or they're not making a full-time income, or they compare themselves to other people that are off to a faster start. But in your case, you were actually nutritionist,
Yeah.
personal trainer. You had a lot of experience in other things, and you were desperate because of the economy. So
Yeah.
that combination is
It's a
not what a
perfect
lot of
storm.
people have when they
Yeah.
start. So how did that first few years go for you?
Well, it was just more or less, I had a really good, a guy that really taught me a lot. I at that same weekend that he actually loaned me the money for the down payment on the machine, right? I signed up for Landmark Education. I had someone that kind of actually owed me money, and they paid for me to go to this personal development program. And so really what is happening with me right now, which we'll get to, is exactly what happened to me then. I needed personal development. I needed coaching. I needed a guy. I just put, honestly, for the first year, I just put people in front of my upline, the guy that introduced me to this. He was great. He mentored me. I just did what he did. I said what he said.
Mm.
Get that I was coming out of, I owned businesses, but I always had people that ran them. I had a personal training gym, but like I didn't even know how to send an email correctly. Like right when I got involved in this thing, the idea of I wasn't necessarily a professional salesperson, right? I mean, I was more of like a gym rat. I was young. I was into partying. I wasn't really. Yeah, I didn't really have skills to do
Mm.
something like this where you're selling a high ticket, high commission, especially face to face, being in people's homes. So I just shared a lot of water, was passionate about it. I got great results, shared my story, put people in front of him. And then what kind of happened was at the 2 year mark, I outgrew him. You know what I mean? Just because I was hungrier than he was, and I just kind of went on my own. And then I think you and I went 6A23 about the same year, like
Oh, okay.
2017 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just kind of, got lazy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. I want to touch on something. You share so much value in these quick little comments. And I want to, for everybody listening, I want to kind of rewind for a
Sure.
quick second. So you said I didn't really have any skills. I was young, I was partying, this and that, but you actually did. And you had the most valuable skill of them all, which is being coachable and actually putting your ego aside and going, hey man, I don't know what's going on here. Let me just follow you. Let me listen to you. Let me say what you
Yeah.
say. Let me do what you do. And a lot of young people in general, they don't have that skill. So they're like, well, I hear you, but I could do it smarter, better, faster, different, whatever. And they don't get results because they don't kind of go through that path of emulation, which is what I like to call it, is like really observing not what people do, but why they're doing it, and understanding the person behind the actions and then actually implementing that. So it sounds like you did the perfect initial start regarding that 1 or 2 years of like, I don't know what's going on, but eventually you did. And then once those things clicked, you're like, cool, I'm ready to level up. I'm ready to go over here, which is exactly, a coach and a mentor's goal, even in myself, in my business, and also my coaching business, is I want people to outshine the master. That is the biggest, like, compliment for me is someone go, hey man, I got what I needed. I leveled up. I'm going to go do this thing over here now. And I'm like, awesome, amazing. So that's really powerful. And then you also said something really massive at the very end there, where you said you hit this big goal and you got lazy. And I think like lazy could be avoided by a lot of people's stories and a lot of people's situations when they actually go from being adaptable and shifting the way they build their business. So laziness is actually because they're like, I'm not willing to do this anymore the way that I have been doing it to get to this point. So I'm out, right? It's like, I'm going to go sit on the beach. I'm going to chill, but the business doesn't keep growing. So what we talk about in the blueprint is like, that's going to happen anyways for everybody, because it's a sign of like not quite burnout, but it's just not sustainable to be in that hyperactive action mode for super long time. But that's when you step back, delegate, hire a team of people to keep running operations. And now you're going back and doing that, it sounds like.
Yeah, and that's what I didn't have. And honestly, I also knew that I needed to go and do some spiritual work. Like I needed to really, it was a different time in my life. There was a different season that was coming in. I had plenty of income. My business was stable. I had built something. The thing is that season went from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to almost 6 years before I was like, now then it starts to decline, right? And then you're like, and then the economy and everything else. And I'm like, hold on, pump the brakes here. Like, I either need to reinvent myself in Enagic or I need to do something else because this isn't going in the right direction.
So I think that's a good segue from there of you having this time where you were enjoying your life. You went on a spiritual journey to understand yourself better and be more connected in that way. And so what happened when you decided to double down on Enagic rather than leaving Enagic and doing something else? And what brought you towards choosing to invest in the Diamond Life Blueprint and get mentored by me at that point?
Yeah, that's really what I want to talk about.
Yeah, let's get into it.
The biggest thing was, I go to all the conventions, for the most part. I'd seen you, I'd watched you for years. I didn't know, I wasn't ready. Like I had saw the blueprint, I think in like 2020. And I was like, but I knew I wasn't ready, right? And there's another lesson in that, right? You can't really do something, you can't force anything. And so I just basically went to the Vegas most recent convention, wherever that was.
Vegas.
Isn't that Vegas?
And this guy's traveling the world. He forgot where he was. He's like, I don't even know where I was.
I saw you, like everything. And I was like, okay. I know I got to do something, but I'm not quite ready yet. So then I was basically mid-October. I just woke up on a Monday morning and I knew I was ready. I'd been doing some meditations and so I just, looked you up on your website and booked a call with Christy, and she was awesome. And I joined Online Empires right before that because I knew I needed to just get back into the space because I literally had not been on social media, other than an occasional holiday post or whatever, liking a few things for 5 years. So
wow.
Yeah,
that's a big hiatus. And I think it's really, cool because as far as I know, you were supported still in the business with the business financially. So you almost had like a sabbatical that was financially supported by the business that you built prior to taking that time off. And there's not a lot of people that can do that in their mid 40s, I guess that's around the time of your life, to just go, you know what, 5 years, let me figure things out. Let me do whatever. Like, wow, that's pretty powerful
if you
stuff,
do the
right?
math, 2017 to 2023 is 7 years.
Wow. So you had a 7-year sabbatical, financially supported. It's not like you went to go work back at Walmart or something like that on the side, right? Or washing dishes or something. Like you were good for that time, right?
Yeah.
And so that's another huge lesson that I think that a lot of people in this space, if they're similar age to Carlos or younger, older, whatever, I think it's really powerful to have almost like a season of your life to explore things that are not financially motivated or business motivated. Sometimes it's a passion for people. Sometimes they want to work on art. Sometimes they want to do charity work or start a foundation or play with dogs at shelters or, whatever it is. It's like, and then that gives you this new sense of like, okay, I think I discovered this about myself. Maybe there's a spiritual awakening during that time. And then you come back to the business as like a new person, but your business didn't get destroyed and you're not starting over at day one. And that's just unheard of in most people's reality. Trying to explain that to someone, they're like, no, that's not a thing.
If I didn't
If
I didn't open a restaurant for 8 years, it would be, buried. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Not even you how many months until it's completely over. Any traditional business is just, it goes under really fast. So that's really powerful. So you came to the convention, you were still showing up to those conventions even during that sabbatical period. I'll just call it a sabbatical. I don't know. I'm just putting words in your mouth, but that's kind of what it sounds like. And then you saw the event and you decided, okay, cool. You got started. So what happened middle of October when you got into the mentorship? Because you've been very active in sharing like your updates and your growth in the program, which has been amazing. So I've seen all those little comments as you've kind of like shifted a lot of things. So talk us about that.
Yeah, the biggest thing with your program and watching you, you're a very unique person, and I understand, what drives you. I've listened to most of your podcasts, and so it's been great to get to know you through that way, and I admire that, right? but you really set the standard. And then now that you're sharing and you're accessible, and I discovered most of this after I committed to the program, right? But the initial thing is, and I remember this when I joined Landmark, over a long time ago, was as soon as I made the decision to do it, as I committed to Christy, I'm going to sign up on November 5th and do this, pay the $5,000, whatever. Oh, and by the way, it's like a $20,000 program. I mean, it's so undervalued. You're right, and I understand why. No, it's like basically free. And so, as soon as I made that decision, everything started to shift, right? Like it was almost like I was preparing for boot camp, or I just knew, right?
Energetically, you shifted, yeah.
Yeah, right. And then I was doing some of the online empire stuff and listening to Brody and all the good stuff that they do. And it was within the first 2 weeks of being involved. I think we did the first call. I started into the curriculum. I started doing all of the biggest thing was the money mindset, Balazs, and the daily affirmations and the reverse engineering of my schedule, because the whole the reverse engineering of the year, and then the schedule, where it was like all of this all of a sudden clicked, and I started to remember kind of who I was and in business and in finances, and I started to have new goals and new dreams, and I threw away all my old stuff, all my old vision boards, all my own personal development stuff. All that stuff was gone a long time ago. So I just had this clean kind of canvas with this whole new program with all of the example of what you did and how you did it. And that's why my favorite episode of yours so far still is one of the more recent ones that you did, where you talk about what would I do if I was brand new. It's a pretty simple episode, but what you did with me is you made me, number one, you contributed to me and I felt your love right away. Number two, you gave me permission to go be new again. You gave me permission to go, just go out and you didn't tell me to quit doing what I was doing. You didn't tell me to quit doing traditional sales. You didn't tell me any of that stuff. You just told me to go do it without even maybe knowing it. And so it just gave me permission to go be super active in my business and do the things even that I wasn't willing to do before. So I just got all these crazy results, results within the first month, because I don't know, I needed someone to tell me to go do it. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's really huge what you're sharing, because at the end of the day, right, at this type of level of the blueprint type program, people have evolved past the whole don't do this, don't do that, and blah, 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 blah. It's more so around, like you said, is you're on the right track, take it day by day, go implement, go take action, find out for yourself, right? And a lot of the things when it comes to coaching, mentorship, these types of programs, even the videos that you're going through, I filmed them 4 or 5 years ago. Right. And so even some of that stuff needs some updating, which I will get to soon, but you're still getting immense value from that, which is really cool. And you go and implement, and it's this is what worked for me. Go try it for yourself. And it may not all be relatable to your life and to what you need, but when you do make it happen and it does click, there's some profound things that happen, right? You actually implemented online, the coaching program, all simultaneously while getting back in the field, back on the phone, back on online. You did a lot all at once, and it was overwhelming. And one of the things we talked about recently was, I feel behind. I feel like there's more to do. And I'm like, dude, you're way ahead, because you're doing so much at once that when they all come to fruition, it's going to be bam, 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 bam. Just by the end of this year, I think there'll be some massive breakthroughs continuing to happen. So when you said you got massive results in your first month, give us some context for everybody listening. What were some of those results specifically, if you could share?
I think I doubled my income.
Okay.
It was, and it was mindset. And that was the thing. You asked me that question, what's the one thing that you got? And I mean, not only is your program personal development, but it is specific to Enagic, but it's also very specific to creating a mindset around, how do I get myself in a place where I can be a vibrational match to the money? Because the money's a byproduct of the personal development, of the mindset, of the self-love, of the environment and being around, right? People like yourself, the people that are in the program, that collective energy that people, you're on these calls with people that are crushing it, and you're like, okay, and so the mindset was just so important, man, for me. I don't know where I was going with that, but go ahead and take it.
No, I think the biggest thing that I heard you say there that I think is so important is the money is the vibrational match.
Yeah.
And a lot of people hear about this kind of thing, law of attraction, frequency, vibration, but they can't really conceptualize it. And it's like when you chase the money, it will elude you. When you become the individual with the vibrational match, is like you couldn't stop the money even if you tried. It just keeps flowing towards you. And you're like, whoa, this is awesome. And even just all the actions that you're taking is like, you might be doing a live stream, for example, or filming content or being on the phone with a prospect or meeting someone in person doing offline sales. And that busy work wouldn't equate to a sale or wouldn't equate to a transformation or money. But if you're a vibrational match, you can stumble on your words and screw things up and whatever, and they still say, I'm in. And you're like, how? And it's because you're a match to those individuals. And like, that outcome of working with that person or helping them with their problems or getting those products or services into their life, I believe that it was already like done before you met them. You know what I mean? Like it was like,
sure.
It's like you ran into them. It was totally by fate. It was supposed to happen and it just clicks really, really fast. But when you're forcing it, what I've noticed is a lot of people try to skip the personal development. They try to skip the reading the books or trying to skip like journaling or planning their year or those things that take effort. And it's not really fun. It's kind of boring work and time consuming stuff. So people go, I'll just skip this and go right to sales, or I'll skip this and go right to DMing people to make money. And that's why it doesn't really work. Whereas what I've noticed about yourself is you are completing the curriculum. You are in there watching the videos. You are leaving comments. You're engaged. You show up to the calls with questions. You have updates. All of this stuff to me, from my point of view, is exemplifying like, I already know you're crushing it. Like, I don't even have to ask because you're doing all the things that are required to crush it. And a lot of people in these programs, they think like paying the money is all they had to do. When it's like, that's not even the point. The point is just to get in the door and actually start doing the work, right? So you doubled your income in the first month. You've been in now, I think, 4 months roughly in the program since. So what are some other things that have happened for you?
Well, so just this Saturday, I mean, I hit my first weekly income goal. So that's huge. And that's, you know, nearly $20,000 a week is what I'm goaled at. So that's awesome. And I did almost all of it. Not all, but I did a large percent of it just on Saturday. So I had a monster day on Saturday just a couple days ago. So that's like, wow, you know, and it's just wild when you go through and, you know, and I'm reading everything and I'm reading all of my goals and I'm just seeing that these are just, they're just coming off, right? You're just checking the boxes. It's phenomenal, man. It is.
And for someone who's done like Landmark and other personal development, what's your perspective on the format of doing the group live calls every 2 weeks in terms of a timeline? Does that give you plenty of time to implement and like come back to the drawing board with that? Like, what's your perspective on the calls?
Yeah, it's really well structured and it's actually perfect. I think any more would be too much and less wouldn't be enough. And it's perfect for me. And for me, I mean, I want it. If you don't want it, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, I want the personal development. And there's another message to people too. If you're doing the program and you're not doing the personal development and the work, your results will not last. And that's what happened to me is it's like, I quit doing the personal development 2015. By 2018, you know, I was on a different path, you know, and like for me, I will never quit this stuff now. Like, it's almost like, you know, if someone has like a relapse or if someone has, right, maybe they were on a workout program and then they gained weight and they're like, I am never quitting going to the gym after, you know, this is kind of like that for me. And I'm so happy and so grateful for you, dude, that you left this, you know, you let the cat out of the bag, man. You let yourself be public. And, you know, and I do want to talk a little bit about, you know, now being online. And the other thing that you gave me permission to do was to just go out there and suck. You know, to just go out. You told me, listen, man, you can't do this program for a year. You can't do what Online Empires is teaching you for a year and at the end every day. And at the end of the year, not be good at it. It's impossible, right? So you just gave me permission to like go out there and, you know, not care. And I saw that you didn't, I saw that you didn't care. You know, that's the wrong word, but I saw that you were fearless. So that gave me permission to go out and be fearless, right? So it was just more or less assimilating. And it's like, it's so awesome to see your results and to see what you've done and achieved, because I do love admiring greatness, right? That's why I love great professional athletes, actors, you name it, right? And so I've always admired you, but the coolest thing about you, it's like, even if I only get 25% of the results that you've got right now in your Enagic business, I mean, that's legacy income, right? And I
Yeah.
know I'll exceed that, right? So it's exciting. I'm just stoked. Like I told you, man, I'm all in on you. And the reason is because I know that if I'm all in on you and I don't quit and I just shut up and do the work, that the results will be a byproduct. And it's simple, right? Follow the
Mm-hmm.
program, right? We didn't invent the machine. We didn't invent Enagic. You know, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of this stuff you invested your time, your money, your resources in, and then you packaged it together and put your own personality and tonality and charisma into. And now there's this thing that, in comparison, to answer your question, to like Landmark Education or Tony Robbins or some of these other development programs, is yours is a whole complete package. Plus, it comes with the business,
Yeah, that's
the
really cool,
vehicle.
man. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something. What was it? I was trying to not forget my thought, and then you just kept going with more awesomeness. What was I gonna say? There was a really good point around. Totally
It'll
dropped
come
it.
back, man.
He'll come back.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's all right. I'll try to think of it. That's okay. But
So I do.
okay,
Here,
so
let me tell people what I do. So what I do is I do my money affirmations every morning. I do my gratitude list every morning. Um, I definitely do my breath work and visualizations every morning to my new. They're all framed, nice, high def pictures. They're in my living room. I do that morning and night. I found out that when I was doing it just morning or just night, I wasn't getting the same results as when I did it twice a day. And they say that's really important, that when you go to bed at night before you meditate, that you really get yourself in a positive mindset loop. So, I'm doing that. I'm also doing, I have a box here, anything I want, I just write down and put in the box, right? And then
mm,
I also do they call it the placemat. This is out of Ask and It's Given, the book, by Abraham Hicks, where basically I write down every day, and you really helped me with this last week, right? With the
mm,
coaching, where you said, dude, you're way ahead of schedule. Don't worry about it. Here's what I want you to do. Set a time, but don't think you're not doing enough. But I write down, maybe the 5 or 6 things that I want to accomplish every day on one side of on one side of the placemat, drawing a line in the middle. And then on the other side, it's everything that I want the universe to do and take care of.
mm,
So the left-hand side is what I need to do, the things that I can physically do, the things that I will accomplish today. And then on the right side, it's everything I want the universe to do. And
mm,
that's all the stuff that is, right, that's outside of today,
mm-hmm,
basically.
mm-hmm.
And brother, I mean, I'm telling you, yesterday I checked off every single box on
Mm.
both sides, and I was
That's
blown away
amazing.
because
Yeah.
I forget about it. Right, it's in the morning, and then in the evening I kind of look at it, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me.
That's amazing, man. You're just absolutely crushing it. It's so cool to have you in the program, especially being a high-ranking person who's been around with this company for so long, have achieved so much. And I know that it's funny too because our businesses is like generational. So every 10 years of being in anything, whether it's a professional athlete like a LeBron James, right? To be at the peak for multiple decades is extremely difficult. That's when the GOAT conversation begins, right?
Sure.
Is like 20 years plus. You're like, okay. And I feel like you're doing that right now in your career, is that
For
you had
sure.
this initial burst, then you had your sabbatical, which once again is truly mind-blowing that you were able to do that and just chill and live life and spend time with your kids and whatever you did during that season. And now you're coming back as like the next 10 years of this whole
It's a
newfound.
comeback, dude. This
It's
is
a
a comeback
yeah, it's kind
story.
of like that.
Yeah,
It's like a
for sure.
comeback.
I'll get comeback distributor of the year, I hope, maybe
Yeah, and
next
I think
year.
that's really, really exciting. So
Yeah.
even though you are feeling like a newbie in some of this stuff, you have that history and that tenacity where once it clicks, once you get it, once it really starts to all work together, which it sounds like it's already starting, it will just be accelerated exponential speed where even in my case, one of my biggest driving forces in my journey in my business was that 5 years that I didn't really take action in my business. It just happened to be the first 5 years. And so every day that like thing behind is like, I'm so far behind of where I could have been, which isn't necessarily true. It was just my
Right.
perception. And so it was just like this catch up feeling of not being competitive necessarily against others, but just like catching up of where I could have been. Is like I had this glimpse of future Balazs being over there somewhere, me trying to catch up. And now I'm feeling more at peace with my age, my achievements, my journey, where I'm at. I'm no longer in that catch up feeling, but it was insane how much extra I would work. Is like the comfortable me would work X amount of hours, and then like the behind version of me would put in 3, 4 extra hours to just try to catch, like make one day into two kind of thing. And so I think like you're on a similar energetic journey right now. It's what I feel from you is like, man, you're just hungry and you're after it and you're killing it. So what are your goals between now and the end of 2024? What are some of the things you're writing down that you're looking to create?
Yeah, so by the end of this first quarter, to have my complete automated sales funnel working, I mean, we are weeks, not even weeks, we're days away from having that engine running and really being then able to scale and really start to get masterful with what we're doing in terms of ads and just really, I don't like to use this word, but I'll use this word, transition online. And yet I have all this activity locally. So one of the biggest other wins was the fact that I had been building on Facebook in my local environment a lot of friends. So like people in my community, and I live in a relatively small town. So as soon as I started going back on Facebook, it was like all of a sudden. So I've got a very strong group now here of kind of traditional. Some of them are kind of thinking about doing more online. So my whole business, you know, is being rebuilt from kind of the ground floor. But then now I'm going to have this whole reach, and you know, I'm creating my personal brand. I've got 2 different YouTube channels that are going and starting to really get traction. I've got an assistant. I've got a really great video guy, Alex, here locally, who's hungry, and he's doing a great job, and he's learning the education as I go. So, you know, I'm learning it, but I've got help, and that was important for me, and that was something that was missing before, because I actually attempted in 2018 to maybe try, you know, going online and doing some things, and I wasn't in the right mindset. I wasn't ready, and so it didn't really matter. But I'm really happy to be here now, man. Really
That's
happy.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
So big
grateful.
goals for the first quarter, and where do you see things going by the end of this year?
So I think by June, I will have like literally more business coming in through everything that not only your program teaches, but I'm learning in the other program, and everything I'm implementing and everything I'm studying, because, you know, I'm a watcher, you know, I'm definitely like to simulate and emulate greatness, right? So I'm watching, applying, learning. So by June, I want to be hitting my monthly income goal, which is 83,000 a month, you know, 83 to 100,000 a month. And definitely by the end of the year, you know, hit that mark. And then I'm planning on sticking with you for a couple of years, dude. You're not going to get rid of me.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, been a real pleasure coaching you, working with you, getting to know you. I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon, probably in Japan, if not sooner than that.
Yeah.
And just keep crushing it, man. Like I said, a great student is ultimately the biggest compliment to being a teacher of anything, right? It's like you cannot be a great coach or mentor if you do not have great students that actually take it, apply it, and implement it, and come back to the drawing board and be like, this is working, this isn't, how do I go to this next step? So it's been an honor and really amazing to be working with you in this way. And I'm just excited to see what you create next, and let's keep working together and crushing it, man. Thanks for your time coming out
Thank you for
today.
the opportunity.
Thanks, Carlos.
God bless.
Have a good rest of your day, man.
You too.